It was Bloody Saturday this weekend in college football as we saw 5 of the top 11 go down. I think 4 of those went down to unranked opponents. And we almost saw a 6th top 11 team go down. It was absolutely nuts. It's football, bro. You can catch this in its podcast form on all podcasts and platforms, or you can check it out live on the YouTube. Let's go ahead, get into this sucker. We're doing things a little bit different today. We're going to go straight into my college football top 25. And of course, we got to start with the fallers because there's quite a bit, as I have 5 teams falling out of the top 25. UNLV, let's start there. They had a heartbreaking finish, unfortunately, against Syracuse, where they would lose 44-41 in OT. It was a good game, back and forth, and it was just a hell lot of fun, man. Kyle McCord was able to get things done, and UNLV, by no means does this mean now they're out of the college football playoff race, but things now do get a little bit harder. The path through the Mountain West will go through Boise. I mean, both these teams, UNLV, Boise, they're undefeated in conference play. I imagine they're not just going to face each other during the season, but we're also going to see them take on one another for the Mountain West crown. However, I do believe if we're going to see a team in the Mountain West make the college football playoff, that team's going to have to win both this UNLV Boise game, and that the team that wins that's also going to have to win the Mountain West if they're going to make it. So UNLV, unfortunate faller. I'm a big mark for UNLV, so hopefully better things lie ahead. But I'm also a big mark for Ashton Genty, who we'll be talking about later when it comes to the Heisman race. But we also saw Louisville. They dropped to 3-2 as they get taken down by SMU, man. SMU, they're hot. They're the hot commodity in the ACC right now, them and Clemson. And SMU was able to get it done. They end up winning, 34-27. And Louisville, man, the defense just weren't able to get consistent pressure. And the SMU offense just ripped them apart. Tyler Shuck played a good game, but could only do so much as SMU. Man, they're on the up and up. Their schedule, not bad. It's not bad. Their one loss coming against BYU, who's also currently undefeated, suddenly not looking so bad. Louisville, they'll take on Virginia next week, so good luck, Godspeed. Virginia coming off a big win against Boston College. USC, oh man, they end up just dropping this one against Minnesota. They lose 24-17. They take on Penn State next week. I don't imagine things getting better. That's a big reason why they end up dropping out of my top 25. This was the last team that they were on that cusp to stay in the top 25, but I was like, man, with Penn State next weekend, I don't know, man. I think Penn State potentially could roll through them. Like they're squishy, USC squishy in the trenches. Penn State's going to take advantage of that. And honestly, like the receivers aren't getting separation. The pass protection is so-so at best right now for USC. And Miller Moss, he just kind of floundered in some of the clutch moments in this game, as he would just put the ball in harm's way, unfortunately. And USC, I can't see them with teams such as Penn State. I think they got Ohio State and Oregon still left on the schedule. I can't see them being anything more than an 8 or 7 win team this year. The schedule is just pretty tough from here on out. They also got Notre Dame. I know that for sure. And then Arizona, they end up dropping this game at home to Texas Tech, 28-22. Don't look now. Red Raiders, I believe they're like 4-1, 5-1. Don't look now, man. Texas Tech, man, they're for real, man. They're for real. So Arizona, after so wild, you get smashed by Kansas State, and then you come back You get a big win in Utah over a non-Cam Rising-led Utah Utes, and then you drop this against Texas Tech. Not a great look, unfortunately. Not a great look. And the Big 12, straight up, it is the Big 12 is wide open. It is wide open, as you could tell from my teams that are just missed my top 25. But the Big 12 feels like it's anyone's game at this point. It's kind of nuts. It's kind of wild. And then finally, Rutgers. They just entered my top 25 last week. Unfortunately, couldn't get the win there. If you bet the under, you're a very happy boy. I think the under was set at 38.5. That was the one I liked. That I think I wanted to bet it up to 40.5. I ended up going with Rutgers plus 6.5 in some bets. I took a money line in some bets. Part of me, little voice in the back of my head was like, bet it up to plus 7.5. What are you doing? And I ended up not following through on that in most of my parlays, and bit me in the butt, unfortunately. But Rutgers, like, offensively, you just don't know what you're getting. If they can't get the run game going, you just can't trust their quarterback to make plays. You had an unfortunate drop on what should have been a touchdown to tie the game up, and it sucked. You had this cat, I can't remember his name. I think I know it was something black, but had massive, like, 40-yard catch. And then he followed that up on not necessarily the next play, but maybe the play after that. Drops the 40-yard tutty. It's sad. But Nebraska, man, defense is legit. Defense is legit for Nebraska. We could just go ahead and jump to my teams that just missed my top 25. Starting with Nebraska, man, looking good. They're gonna be going into a bye. They're 5-1. Their one loss is, I believe that loss was that Indiana? No, I don't think it was Indy. I know it was a tight one. Might have been Illinois. Might have been Syracuse. I got all these teams bundled up in my head. The schedule is kind of crazy for Nebraska, unfortunately, after this. Was it, let's see. It was Illinois. It was that OT game. But yeah, the schedule's kind of nuts for Nebraska after this, as you got Indiana, you got Ohio State. I don't know why I keep thinking Nebraska's in the Big 12. They're in the Big 10. But Indiana, Ohio State, and then you close the year with USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. I did skip over UCLA. UCLA, just not a good football team this year, unfortunately. But things get tougher the next few weeks for Nebraska. Colorado is in the Big 12. Can confirm that. They had a bye this week. They'll be taking on Kansas State. Big head-to-head showdown that this week for the Buff. And, I mean, you got two Heisman contenders in Shedeur and Travis Hunter. They're playing good football. You still worry about the offensive line, yeah, sure. But the defense is playing good football. Shedeur is playing great football. Travis Hunter is playing great football. And there might be some signs, there might be some life of a run game there for Colorado. Oklahoma, they got a lot going on. They get Texas this week. If they could pull the upset in the Red River rivalry, then yeah, they probably jump up in my top 25. But I have a hard time believing next week's going to look very much like this week did for the top 25. But they've gone to their backup quarterback. They have multiple wide receivers out. They have multiple offensive linemen out. It's a rough spot for Oklahoma, but they're sitting at 4-1. They're coming off a bye. Let's see how they do this week against Texas. They're still going to be a scrappy team. And then, of course, we got to have the military academy schools, man. Army and Navy. They are both 5-0, combined 10-0. This is like the first time since like the 1940s or something. And they did it in absolute, they just dog walked their opponents. Army, dog walk in Tulsa. Army was the best bet on the board at -9.5. They destroy Tulsa 49-7. They get a UAB after this, who's coming off a bad loss against Tulane. And then Navy, they get things done against Air Force 34-7. They're going to be getting a bye this week. So both are 5-0. And don't look now. Are they your front runners for the AAC? They very well might be. But let's go ahead, get to the top 25, starting with Illinois. They're coming off a bye. They get a squishy Purdue team that's not that good. Don't look now. Illinois, I think, going to be 5-1 heading deep, I should say, deeper into their conference play with their one loss against a Penn State team that's probably, spoiler alert, going to be in the top 10. But they will get a few tougher matchups in the next few weeks. Michigan, Oregon. They'll get also, Rutgers. So those three games, they could very well all be losses. If they actually snag one of those games, if they sneak a win in one of those three games, ending the year 9-3, you should be really happy if you're an Illinois fan. You hear me, Nintendo Mike? Yeah, you do. Pittsburgh, they remain undefeated, beating North Carolina 34-24 in a bit of a shootout early on. They were able to pull away near the end of that game. This is the first time a quarterback has started 5-0 for Pittsburgh since Dan Marino. Legacy. Let's talk about it. They get California this upcoming week. A California team that's coming off a devastating loss. More on that a little bit later. Iowa State. They slowly but surely they got things done against Baylor. I figured this was going to be a slow grind. I'm kind of surprised they put up as many points as they did, as they beat Baylor 43-21. They take on a pretty tough West Virginia team this upcoming week that's coming off a big win against Oklahoma State. Though Oklahoma State, they just don't seem any good this year, unfortunately. Boise, they are now up in the top 25 at 22. Remember, I had 5 teams drop. That means I'm going to have 5 teams rise. This is the 4th of those 5 teams. They destroy poor Utah State. 62-30? Golly, man. Ashton Genty, he continues his record pace to beat Barry Sanders' rushing touchdown record. He's got to be one of your leaders for the Heisman. He will be when we get to the Heisman segment. They do they get a bye this upcoming week? No, they get Hawaii, so they basically get a bye. And then Michigan, this is the only team in my top 25 with 2 losses. And it's so hard just to take Michigan out of the top 25 completely. I just couldn't really do it I had them relatively high. They were around 12, 13 in my top 25. Michigan, they'll get a bye this upcoming week to figure things out at the quarterback position. Ultimately, that's what it came down to, man. This team just couldn't move the ball offensively. And we kind of figured that's what Michigan's going to be this year. And I know a lot of arguments are going to be like, well, Washington should be in the top 25 instead of Michigan. Well, head-to-head is just one aspect of how you rank these teams. A lot of it has to do with my preseason projections. A lot of it has to do with, the quality of their wins. And that USC win does hold a little bit of weight. And, Washington, that's another team. They're at 4-2 as well that are surging. They may not have made my just missed it, but they're in the top tier of my teams that are up and coming. Washington gets Fresno State. That should be a win there. Washington. No, that's Washington State. Who does Washington have? Iowa. Ooh, good luck. Godspeed. Good luck. Godspeed to Washington. But Michigan, obviously, if they keep losing, I'm going to keep dropping them. That's how this thing works. But I felt like they were too far up into my top 25 to actually drop them, and still that defense is scary as hell. Let's keep rolling to the top 20 as I got Mizzou. And the big argument here is going to be, why do you have Mizzou so close to Texas A&M? Texas A&M smacked them, and they did. They did 41 to 10, 41 to 10, 41 to 7, 41 to 10. That's right, because they I think they ended up covering the over, or the over and under in terms of the point total. So again, head to head is just one aspect. Missouri still has the easiest schedule of really any of the SEC teams. Texas A&M, they do not, unfortunately. And I still buy into Mizzou potentially being a 2 at this point, the way based on how they played, a 3-loss team, which will put them in my top 25. I could only drop them so much. And unfortunately, coming off the bye, and yeah, now that Vandy win looks a little bit better, but the Boston College one's not looking so hot after they go down to Virginia. And it's like, man, yeah, you came in coming off a bye, and then you crapped the bed as an offense. Why don't you get the ball to Luther Burden enough? Like, I get it. Early in this game for Mizzou, a lot of things didn't break their way, because this was our watch-along game up until halftime, where, I mean, they had a picked-up flag that resulted in just ending the drive completely. They had a Luther Burden touchdown called back because of a holding call, and after that, the wind was out of their sails. They were just floating. They were adrift in the middle of this sea known as College Station, and got railroaded. The defense can't stop anybody. They did replace their DC after this year. He went on to he's over at LSU currently. So, like, I get it. There's a lot of problems with Missouri, but considering their schedule, there's only so much you could drop them. Texas A&M, they were on the outside looking in when it came to my top 25 entering the week. There was only so much I could move them up. So they end up right next to one another. And then SMU, don't look now. Mustangs, they're legit, man. They're legit. Let's take a look at the remainder of the schedule, because I really do think they're probably going to be favorites from here on out, as they take, honestly, the toughest matchup probably ends up being that Duke game. Don't sleep on Pittsburgh. Don't sleep on Boston College. Don't sleep on Virginia or California, but it's a pretty easy schedule from here on out in the ACC. They get Stanford in 2 weeks' time. They get Duke, Pittsburgh, which is a home game. Pittsburgh's going to be a home game for SMU. They get a home game versus Boston College. Virginia could be a sketchy one, and then California. So it's an easy schedule for SMU. They could very well be competing for the ACC championship game. And it's a big reason how easy their schedule was is a big reason why I had them so high in my preseason rankings. And to be fair, they're only I think I had them with 2 losses this season, being Florida State and Louisville, and they get through both those games. Okay, man. Watch out. SMU's legit. Kansas State had a bye. They get a big game this week against Colorado. That's going to help shape the Big 12. Is the Big 12 far from decided? I thought it was going to be decided in weeks 4 and 5. Not so fast, my friend, as Lee Corso would put it. The Big 12 is still wide freaking open. Indiana, they end up being big risers here. They do take on, they get a bye this upcoming week, but they end up beating Northwestern 41-24. They cover, which is the best thing. Great teams cover. Good teams win. Great teams cover. But when it comes to Indiana and their schedule, they still have to take on Nebraska, Washington, Michigan, and Ohio State. So tough remainder of a schedule for the Hoosiers. So only so much I could really push them up my board. And then at 15, I got BYU. They also had a bye this week, I believe. It was a good week if you were undefeated and not playing in week 5. Spoiler, it was a good week if you were undefeated and had a bye this week, because this ended up being chaotic, and we'll talk about it when we get to the top 10. But BYU will take on Arizona next week. This is an Arizona team. You don't know what type of Arizona team you're going to be getting on the week-to-week basis. It's going to be a very winnable game for BYU. They're very much in the driver's seat when it comes to the Big 12 championship game. Notre Dame, they had a bye. They take on Stanford. Really, I would say their toughest matchup left is against USC. That's going to be at the Coliseum. But I believe they take on, do they take on both Army and Navy? They still got Georgia Tech. They have Army and Navy. So maybe the schedule from here on out isn't so promising for Notre Dame, but we'll find out, man. I feel like this is Notre Dame. Since that loss to Northern Illinois, they've really found themselves. And then LSU, they have a bye. They take on Ole Miss this week. Ole Miss, let's just say Ole Miss was pissed about that Kentucky loss. They took it on South Carolina, but that's a big game, man. That's a big game for LSU. If they could win that, because the SEC kind of wide open at this point. It's kind of wide open. The college football playoff is kind of wide open. This might be the biggest year where there's just so much discrepancy. And we thought last year was it. This year feels very much like it, with the expansion of the college football playoff being so just insane. On top of that, just a lot of parity, a lot of variety, just a lot of things, a lot of unexpectedness thus far this early into the college football season. And then Liberty had a bye. They get Florida International. This was my group of 5 team that I picked to make the college football playoff. They have one of the easiest schedules. They had their game canceled last week because of the hurricane against Appalachian State. That's not going to be rescheduled. So, and I thought that was probably one of their tougher games. They should win out. They are in the driver's seat when it comes to a group of 5 team making the college football playoff. That's why I had them so high in my preseason rankings. It's why they're going to remain high until they take that first L. Clemson. Don't look now. Is Clemson sneakily the front runner for the ACC title? Like, I don't know. How much do you buy into freaking Miami? We'll talk about Miami when we get there, but how much do you buy into them? Clemson, I buy into quite a bit. Was it perfect this week? No, but they still won by 16. They beat Florida State 29-13. They take on Wake Forest. I'm not worried about that. This is a team that could put up a lot of points. Literally, it's like they had the Georgia game. That was rough. Since then, they've been smoking teams. Clemson's legit, man. Clemson's legit. That's a good team with a lot of talent, and they're starting to figure some things out. Now, let's move to the top 25. At 10, I got Utah. It's hard to not still believe, it's hard just not to buy into Utah still. Utah, I still think, is the front runner for the Big 12. Now having that conference loss to Arizona does complicate things. They'll be taking on Arizona State this upcoming week. They had a bye. I feel like once Cam Rising's healthy, their only loss came without Cam Rising. I think this is probably the best team in the Big 12 if Cam Rising's healthy. That's just facts. We'll see. They're taking on a very, very scrappy Arizona State team this upcoming week, but we'll see, man. We'll see. Ole Miss, they're here at number 9. Big win against South Carolina, 27-3. That was our other watch-along game. As, man, just right from the get-go, South Carolina unable to move the football. Even without Princely Umamielen, like, this team was able to win the trenches, at least on the defensive side of the football. Was it pretty on offense? No. Was it pretty for Jackson Dart? No. They lost Trey Harris early in the game. But defensively, this team's kind of legit. They're like, we're not going to let what happened in Kentucky, in Lexington, dictate our season. We're here to stay. We're here to play. They take on LSU this week. And then Tennessee, golly, man, everybody was on the Tennessee bandwagon. I remember when I just got them into my top 10. People were like, "Oh, Tennessee's easily the best team in the nation," and then suddenly, like the last couple of weeks, the team can't play offense. I mean, that's what kind of the game came down to. This offense was unable to hit explosive plays. And outside of like a big run, it felt like that Heupel wouldn't put the ball into Nico's hands. And to be fair, when they did on that last play, you're out there trying to run the football instead of like make that pass to the end zone. You need a touchdown to win. And I don't know, maybe your young quarterback, maybe young Nico cracks under the pressure. He's a first-year starter. Let's give a little benefit of the doubt. But they'll be taking off Florida this week. But crushing loss against an Arkansas team, 4-2. Hey, they've saved Sam Pittman's job. They end up losing. Tennessee ends up losing 19-14 here. Great game by the Hogs, man. Great game by the Hogs. They did a hell of a good job. Georgia had Auburn. Might as well have been a bye week. Sorry, Kirito. But you know it's true. Auburn's kind of in disarray. They beat Auburn 31-13. They essentially get another bye week as they're taking on a Mississippi State team this week that is in reconstruction. So Georgia coming off the tough loss last week against Alabama. But a lot of things broke Georgia's way this week. Let's just say a lot of things broke Georgia's way. And then, of course, the upset of the day. Freaking Alabama. Oh, my goodness. Golly gee. Upset of the day. I've been saying it since the Wisconsin game. This defense struggles to stop the run, and they did in this game. But it wasn't just that. They suddenly struggled to stop the pass. Vandy was able to move the football. Vandy had the ball for like 40-some minutes. They controlled this game. And then Vandy, they celebrate. You know, they storm the field, take the field goal post, throw it in the lake, river, whatever. That's nuts. But they're defensive, like offensively, Alabama was cooking. They were able to score points in a hurry, but they could never control the flow of the game because, well, Vandy wouldn't let them. Vandy was very successful running the football. Pavio was very successful passing the football, like Eli Stowers. I know some people were like, who is this tight end? Man, that might be a legit draft prospect right there. He was on my watch list entering the season, never got around to him. Might make some time for him this week. I'm just going to say that. Alabama loses 40-35. Unbelievable. I still believe in the offense. Jalen Milroe still playing great football, but defensively, this isn't your Nick Saban defense. And it very much wasn't your Nick Saban defense last year. But now, not just your inability to stop the run, but now you're looking not so great in the passing game either after 2 weeks. So not great. Not great. And then the top 25. Miami is at 5, and I debated actually putting them at 8. I don't know if I buy into this Miami team. I don't. Like, these are the cardiac canes at this point, because anytime I got to watch Miami, I'm having a heart attack. That whole game. They were down 35-10 to California. And, hey, I give them their roses. The offense was able to come back into this game and make it a ball game. And listen, like California, you got outscored, 29-3? You deserve to lose the game after that. I get it. Shenanigans at the end of the game. You had the targeting call that never was. Should have been an automatic first down. You had ineligible man downfield. You had a offensive lineman downfield on the touchdown. I get it. Things at the end of that game broke for the Canes. But Cal let them back in it. Cal could not control the clock. They could not control the flow. They could not run the football. Miami, Cam Rising. No, Cam Ward. Too many Cams. Too many freaking Cams. Cam Ward. This is the one thing Miami has been missing since, 2003. A quarterback that could bring them back into games. Quarterback that's like never say die. This is the best quarterback they've had since, dare I say, Ken Dorsey. Now Ken Dorsey is an OC in the NFL. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long freaking time coming. And the Hurricanes are here. I just don't know how legit that defense is. They were able to crack things down in the second half. They get a bye. Good. Think about what you've done. Because the next slate of games aren't easy by any means for Miami. They'll be going to Louisville, taking on Florida State, taking on a Duke team that just got their first loss of the season. I mean, I never thought Duke was legit, but hey, that's a 5-1 team. Don't sleep on Duke. Georgia Tech's going to be a tough game, and that's at Georgia Tech. I don't have to talk about last year at Georgia Tech. I don't want to talk about last year at Georgia Tech. And then they still end the year with Syracuse. So, by no means is this, it still has a chance to be a rocky path for Miami. It still does. Penn State got things done handedly against UCLA. They didn't have to do much. They win 27-11. They take on USC. It might be their biggest match thus far this season. Probably is their biggest match since Illinois. That Illinois game was actually kind of good, but Penn State, I feel like they're getting hot at the right time. That defense is coming alive. Whether it's Sutton Dennis or whether it's Abdul Carter. And then Oregon, they beat up on Michigan State 31-10. Dylan Gabriel didn't have to be good this game because, Jordan James was like, I got it. I'll put the team on the back. And he did, man. He did. They end up winning, destroying Michigan State. But now with a game that is going to shape the top 3, they're going to be taking on Ohio State. It is in Eugene. Biggest game of the year for Oregon. This weekend, we have a chance to have some more parity at the number 1 spot, as we've seen the number 1 team shift the last 2 weeks. We can see it again this week. We can see it again. Texas, they had a bye. They get the Red River rivalry. By no means is that a for sure or far gone conclusion. But I do think Texas probably beats up on Oklahoma. They should. But they're sitting here at number 2. Ohio State, they demolish. They handily take down Iowa 35-7. This offense feels like it's for real. This defense feels like it's for real. Let's see them get it done in Eugene at Oregon. That's the matchup this week. We're going to be doing a watch along of that game this weekend. In Ohio State. Now, this is their first time number 1 for me. This is their first time I've had them at number 1 this season. Can they hold on to it for more than just a week? We shall see. We shall see. Everybody loves the NFL draft, and I know you want to be familiar with every potential prospect that your team may draft. So I got good news for you. My draft guide is available for purchase. It is good throughout the entire draft cycle, and it updates through the season regularly. You'll get my current evals and rankings on hundreds of different players with player backgrounds and analytics. It also contains combine and pro day numbers, as well as my notes from the Senior and Shrine Bowl. You can purchase it for a one-time payment of $30 on PayPal, Venmo, and now I have the Cash App. Follow the link in the description and be sure to include your email because it is a Google spreadsheet. That is how I share it with you. So please don't make me hunt down your email. Just don't do it. Anywho, it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. Heisman Contenders. Let's go ahead and get into it. Jalen Milroe dropping to 5 after not a lackluster week on his part. He's still playing great football. It's just the defense kind of sucked this week for Alabama, but he's still playing great. He's still worthy of the Heisman discussion. So he drops a little bit. He's here at 5 now for me because, well, we had some changes, but I think he is still firmly a favorite for the Heisman. And then at number 4, I got Shedeur Sanders. He doesn't move from last week. They had a bye. Makes no sense to really move him. So we're going to keep him here. He might be the best pure pocket passer in college football right now. He's playing great football. Got him right here at 4. At number 3, I got Cam Ward. He has put this Hurricanes team on his back. I know it's not perfect. He's throwing picks. The pick 6 this week, really ugly. Pick 6 against Virginia Tech, really ugly. But he is the reason that this Hurricane team, that we're even talking about them as a top 5 team in the nation. Because he can put up points in a crazy way. Thus far through this season, he's got 3 rushing tutties. He's got 20 passing touchdowns. I think he leads college football. If he doesn't lead, he's either in the top 3 of passing yards. Cam Ward, he's legit. At number 2 is my personal favorite to win the Heisman, Ashton Jeanty. Big week against Utah State. He only had 13 carries, but he got 3 touchdowns. This man's averaging a first down or a touchdown on each carry. That's just utterly dangerous. He's on pace to break Barry Sanders' rushing touchdown record. He currently has 16 on the year through all of 5 games. Yeah, man. I love me some Ashton Jeanty. He is my running back 1. He was my running back 1 coming into the year. Yeah, not much is changing. But number 1, it's got to be Travis Hunter. We haven't seen a guy play both sides of the football like this in forever, maybe even ever. To play at such an elite level, not just as a receiver, but also as a corner, coming up with big plays. He's got 2 interceptions on the year, 6 receiving touchdowns. JJ Pegues is the only guy playing to his level when it comes to two-way players. By the way, shout out to JJ. He had 2 touchdowns this week on top of playing along the defensive line, but not to the level of Travis Hunter. He is him currently.